Welcome everybody. This is a very small basic class on something that I like to call controlled articular rotations. It's not really what I like to call it. It is part of the functional range conditioning system, and the abbreviation is CARS. So you might have heard me talk about CARS many times, maybe in my book, maybe in my public classes, maybe on the small little videos I post on the internet. But controlled articular rotations are incredibly useful in one, building bigger ranges of motion in your joints, and two, as a self-assessment tool to figure out where you don't have enough range of motion. And of course, it's best when you see a physiotherapist or a chiropractor or you work with a professional, but if you don't have money to do that, you need to start somewhere to figure out why you're injured. So this can be a really good starting point, just doing some slow controlled articular rotation of the different joints in your body and trying to feel in your own body, where are you getting stuck? Where does it feel weird and kind of painful to maybe try to move through a range of motion? That can tell you a lot, and it can be a really good first step to understanding your limitations. So let's just get right into it. I'm gonna have you guys sit down. Now you can sit down regularly, like this, like a little meditation position, but I like to sit on my feet for this just because it helps me have a really nice straight spine. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work through a neck controlled articular rotation. So just please follow along, and then I'll talk a little bit about it after. So first things first, you want to have your shoulders back and down. The most important thing with controlled articular rotations is that when you are working on a specific joint, you want to keep all the other areas of your body as stable as possible. So for example, when we kind of move our neck around in circles, a lot of us will shrug our shoulders up, or maybe we'll have one shoulder in front of the other. But the whole point of this exercise is to keep everything else super, super stable so that you can see what is the actual range of motion in that one joint, okay? So let's go through this. Shoulders back and down, start to pull your belly in so that you have a nice straight low back. You don't want to be too arched, you don't want to be too forward, you want to be nice and straight here. Once you have that, start by simply bringing your chin down to your chest, as far as you can go. Now from here, start to move your chin over to your left shoulder as much as possible. So you're going to twist as much as you can without letting the shoulders come up. Once you get to that twist, start to feel like you're pouring water out of your left ear. So start to tilt your head back behind you. From there, let it roll all the way over to the other side until it feels like you're pouring water out of the right ear. Then start to bring the chin back down towards the shoulder with the shoulder still backing down, and then start to bring the chin all the way back down to center. Now we're going to go the other way. So chin stays down, start to bring the chin over to the right shoulder, tilt the head back like you're pouring water out of the ear. From then, let it circle all the way back and around to the left, pretend like you're pouring water out of the left ear. Then start to bring the chin back down to the left shoulder and then back down to center. So we can do that a little bit more fluidly. Notice where you're getting stuck if you're getting stuck somewhere. So chin down, bring the chin over to the shoulder as you still look down, then tilt the head back like you're pouring water out of the ear. Rotate it all the way over to the other side. Think about pouring water out of the right ear. Then chin comes back to the shoulder while looking down, and then chin comes back to chest. One more time the other way. Here we go. Chin over to the right shoulder first. Pour water out of the ear. Circle it back around. Pour water out of the left ear. Bring the chin back to the shoulder, and then chin back to center. So that right there is a neck controlled articular rotation. What you want to watch for is, do your shoulders maybe come up when you do this? Does it feel stuck when you're going back, when you're taking your head back from one side to the other side? Does it feel like it's stuck, or does it feel like there's pain somewhere? Does it feel like there's an extreme stretch somewhere? All of these are questions that you can ask yourself as you move through this, okay? The next one we're gonna work on is shoulders. I'm gonna sit over here to the side because it's easier for you guys to see. But when we're working on shoulders, a lot of the time that we take our shoulder through a controlled articular range of motion, what happens here for a lot of us is, one, the shoulder starts to shrug up, right? To get our arm up. For example, this is how high I can go up. If I want to reach higher, my shoulder has to unplug and move up. We don't want to do that. We want to keep it plugged in the entire time. Also, when we turn the arm back, what a lot of people do is they move their entire chest. They'll go, hey, right? And move their chest over. So what we're trying to do here is make sure that we're moving just from the shoulder joint, nothing else. I'm only going to demonstrate it on one side, but obviously when you do this at home on your own, you want to do it on both sides. Here we go. Shoulders back and down. I'm going to start with my right arm. So start with your palm facing the midline of your body, and then start to move the arm up as high as it can go without letting your shoulder drive up. Now for me, this is where I get stuck. I can't move it up anymore without letting my shoulder come up. So once I get here, I want to turn from my shoulder, turn the arm out so that now the palm is going to be facing the outside of the body. From here, I'm going to start drawing my arm back, keeping my shoulder back and down, making sure that I do not turn my chest. So I'm going to reach as far back as I possibly can. I feel a huge stretch through my chest, through my shoulder, all the way down my arm to my fingertips. And as the arm comes back, it slowly can rotate back so that the palm is facing the midline. Let's do that one more time. Bring the arm up as high as it'll go, nice and slowly. Make sure your core is engaged, make sure your shoulders are back. When you can't turn that arm anymore, start to externally rotate at the shoulder joint to open up that arm and bring it all the way back. Again, make sure that your chest isn't moving, it is facing forward the entire time, and then all the way back and down. So that's with the arm going forward. Now we also want to take our arm backwards through that movement, see how it does. So same thing, start with your palm facing the midline of the body, start to bring the arm back behind you until it can't move up anymore, right? You get to a point where you cannot drag your arm up anymore. What you're gonna have to do now, again, is rotate that shoulder joint open. So when you get to that point that you can't move it anymore, turn the arm open and then circle it forward. Again, trying to keep the shoulder back and down, trying to keep the chest looking forward. Now, I might not be perfect at doing this because none of us really are unless we've been doing this for years and years and years and years. So it's okay if it's not perfect in the beginning. Just do the best you can and try to feel for what's going on in there. Does it get stuck? Is it kind of clanky? Do you hear any clicks, any sounds? Does one area feel like you can't move it through that big of a range of motion? Do you need to make your circle smaller in order to be able to actually do a full circle? Again, questions that you can ask yourself. And now one more time, let's take it back. So shoulders back and down, core is engaged, belly's in, arm comes back as far as it can go. When you can't go any further, open up that arm, rotate it open, and then with the shoulders still back and down, with the chest still looking forward, now circle it all the way to the front. Nice and slow. Like for me, I know that when I move backwards, I have a little bit more of a limited range of motion than when I move forwards. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, now that we're done shoulders, we're gonna move to controlled articular rotations of the spine. Now, I'm a little bit weary about showing you guys this because I'm not really that great at it, and I feel like it's gonna take me a long time to be better at it, and it could take years and years, but it's not that bad. So I'm just gonna show you. First, actually, I'm gonna tell you, okay? So controlled articular rotations of the spine is us trying to basically move through each vertebrae one at a time. Now, it's very challenging for us humans, especially because we've done so much sitting, we're kind of calcified through the spine. We have a hard time actually moving vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae by vertebrae. We kind of move our spine as like one unit versus tiny little individual pieces. So this is gonna look a lot like the cat and cow from yoga, but when people do cat and cow yoga, they kind of do this, right? They move their spine all as one unit. We don't want to do that here. We want to go from our tailbone into our head, and then from our head into our tailbone really, really slowly. So let's start together and you'll kind of get the hang of it as you move through it. Start in all fours and really make sure that your shoulders are over your wrists, your hips are over your knees, and now take your awareness to your tailbone, okay? We're going to start here by going into cow, and I want you first kind of stick your booty out a little bit. Get that pelvis to turn forward. From there, start to let your belly drop down. Then try to let the bottom of your rib cage drop down. Then start to move towards your mid-back, let your mid-back get closer to the ground. Start to get your shoulders onto your back. Think about pulling your chest through your arms. And the last thing you want to do is look up towards the sky. Now from here, stay looking up, take your awareness back into your tailbone, and we're gonna go the opposite direction. So this time, you're gonna start to do a posterior tilt of the pelvis first. Start pulling that lower belly in. Start bringing that lower part of your back up towards the sky. Then move into your mid back. Then move into your upper back. Start to press the floor away from you, and the last thing you do is take the head down and look towards the thighs. Now, if you saw me do that, you probably saw that I got a little bit stuck in my mid back, right? So this portion of my back, for me, is where I have a really hard time moving each vertebrae one by one, but this is the practice that I do every day to teach myself to get to that point. Because if I can articulate through each vertebrae, then when I get into a random movement in life, or all of a sudden I get pulled, or say I'm walking a dog and a dog all of a sudden jumps and pulls me in the other direction, my spine is going to have the fluidity to be able to handle that, and then hopefully I won't get injured. So let's do that one more time. Shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. Start in a nice neutral position. Take your awareness to your tailbone and start to first go into an anterior tilt. Let your lower belly drop down. Then start to let the bottom of your rib cage drop down. Let the chest come down. Think about taking your chest through the arms and then finally looking up towards the sky. Now next one, again, take your awareness into your tailbone. Start to pull that low belly in first. Think about just moving through your lumbar spine and then coming up into the thoracic spine, up into that mid-back area. And then slowly from there, start to take yourself into the upper back, around the upper back, and then finally look down towards your thighs. All right, now let's do that one more time. All right, so here we go. Starting in the tailbone, first you want to stick your bum out, let your lower belly drop down, let your rib cage come down, chest come down, shoulders onto the back. Think about pulling the chest through the arms and then looking up. Stay looking up, take your awareness back into your tailbone, and now start to again pull that low belly in, take yourself into a posterior tilt. Try to articulate just the lumbar spine first, then move up into the thoracic. Start to pull everything in, flex everything on the front of your body as you stretch everything on the back of your body, nice and slow. What you can do if you have a friend or a partner who can help you do this, what I find really, really helpful when I do it, I'd love to have a friend there to help me, is I like to get them to actually put their fingers on my back so that as I'm doing it, they're actually pressing into each vertebrae, right? So if you're coming into cow, then every time they press, you want that part to go down further towards the ground. So you're thinking of drawing the spine away from their hands, right? But if you're going the other way, then every time they go up to a vertebrae, what you want to feel like you're doing is pushing your spine into their hands, right? And it can be a really good tool for you to figure out where am I moving and where am I not. And like I said, I get stuck in my mid-back. You might find the exact same thing. A lot of us get stuck there, especially if we're spending hours and hours sitting down, driving, at a computer, watching TV, etc. So yeah, sorry if that doesn't look the best on me, but it doesn't matter what it looks like on me. It matters what it can help you figure out about yourself. Now lastly, let's do some controlled articular hip rotations. There's more, just FYI, I'm only showing you guys the basics today. You can do them for your knees, you can do them for your ankles, you can do them for your elbows, you can do them for your wrists, and you can do it just for your thoracic spine. But I'm showing you the main ones because these are usually the good starting points to figure out where you're getting stuck. Now, especially with the hips, that's why I left it for last. When these guys aren't working properly, they can lead to a lot of problems in your lower back. And now for me personally, my hips do not have very good rotation. They're kind of stuck, I'm not gonna lie. This is kind of the most stuck part of my body, probably because I do so much sitting in my daily life. Even though, yes, I'm a fitness trainer, yes, I go hiking, yes, I go running, I still spend a lot of time at home editing these videos, working on my business. So I spend a lot of time in front of a computer. And I'm a gamer on top of everything. So I definitely spend a lot of time sitting down. This is why, for me, this is like the #1 biggest controlled articular rotation I need to work on. The reason I'm taking so much time explaining this is because when we don't have enough range of motion in our hips, a simple squat can throw out our back. It's unfortunate, but it's the truth. Even like a really crazy hike where we have to take like big, huge, like giant steps and go over rocks, and it can definitely put a lot of pressure on your low back if your hips can't actually handle the full range of motion. And one of the best ways to do these is actually using the yoga block, because the yoga blocks will help your brain realize where the movement is coming from. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate, okay? When I get people to do articular rotations, I go, okay, we're going to do hip circles. What do most people do when they do hip circles, right? They go, that looks like a hip circle, but really I used my back. My back was not stable. My body was not stable. I opened up my hips and my back in order for me to be able to do that circle. So the reason we want to use a yoga block is because the yoga block can go on our low back, and it can help us figure out if our low back is staying straight or if we're opening up too much. So when I do a hip circle with this, if I do it like that and I just open it up and try to move it through a circle, if I use my back, the yoga block will fall off. Okay, so let me show you that one more time. I put the yoga block on my back. If I do a hip circle without really being mindful, I just want to open up and do the circle, what happens? Block falls off. That means that that movement wasn't coming from my hip. It was coming from all the other areas of my body that were compensating to do that movement. So now, when we work on true controlled articular rotations of the hip, we have to keep our low back flat. So the name of the game here is hip circles with the block on your back. They're gonna look much smaller. They might look even a little bit more painful, but this is how we actually get into the hip joint. And you might even find that you get sore in these areas when you do these. I know I do, because my stabilizers in here are going crazy. So here we go. Block on the back, pull your low belly in, everything stays nice and tight, and now take my right knee off the mat and start to drive it forward. From there, I open up like I'm peeing on a fire hydrant as much as I can without the block falling off my back. Then I do an internal rotation of my femur bone, so my thigh bone, to try to take my leg back through a full rotation, and then bring it back down. Now going the other way, it's going to do the same thing. Hold the belly in, start to bring the leg back. Externally rotate the femur bone to bring it back around to that position that looks like I'm kind of peeing on the fire hydrant. And then back down. Now you want to do about 5 of these going forward, 5 of these going backwards. There's many different positions that you can do these in, but I find that working with the block is going to give you the best feedback to what's going on in there. Because if that block is dropping side to side constantly, you know there's like some really limited issues in the hip joint. If you guys saw that hip circle that I just did, you saw that it wasn't big. Okay, I can't draw really big circles with my hips, but moving through that range of motion constantly has actually opened up my hips a lot compared to what they used to be. So those tiny little movements every day over time, you'll be able to draw bigger and bigger and bigger circles without the block falling off your back, which is so incredibly important if you want to have a healthy low back, right? What ends up happening the most for a lot of North Americans where we do a lot of sitting is whenever we go into more complicated movements that require that internal and external hip mobility, we just don't have it. So that pressure that we're supposed to be taking in our hip joints, we're actually taking in our low back. And then we end up with compressed low backs, herniated discs, bulge discs, etc. So please, please, please work on this. We're gonna do it one more time. Put the block on your back. I'm gonna show you on the right side, but you're gonna do the same thing on the left anyway. So pull the belly in, shoulders back, bring that knee up and off the floor, start to move it forward towards the wrist as much as you can, then open it up like you're peeing on a fire hydrant without that block falling off your back. Internally rotate your thigh bone to start bringing that leg all the way back and around. When you do it the other way, again, nice strong core, pull the belly in, start to bring the leg back, start to now externally rotate the thigh bone to bring it through that pose that looks like I'm peeing on a fire hydrant, Start to bring my knee towards my wrist without letting it touch the floor, and then finally when I get it back, touch the floor. Again, you want to do about 5 of these controlled articular rotation on every joint, at least once a day. So if you were to do shoulders, hips, spine, and neck, those 4 would take you about 20 minutes a day. That I know can seem like a long time to some of you, but 20 minutes a day in order to live a more pain-free life and to do injury prevention, I feel like is a no-brainer. So I really hope this helped. If you are dealing with an injury, if you're using this as a self-assessment tool, the only thing I really want you to pay attention to is, where am I feeling stuck? Where do I feel like I can't move my joint through that full range of motion, right? There's some people that when they move their shoulder back, they feel such intense pain here, they know that there's a limit there. You know, this type of movement will tell you so much about your body. I highly encourage you all to do it. Thank you so much for listening to me blog about this for the last 20 minutes or so. I really appreciate all of you guys taking the time to watch this. I will definitely have a lot more resources for you on my website, on my social media. So again, thank you so much and have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.